back to another Millennial in-depth video. If you are new here, hit that subscription button below and turn on the notification bell so you get every single time I upload a video. Today, future millionaires, we are talking about bankruptcy. Oof, I know. But I did ask a question on Instagram the other day, which if you are not following, you know the vibes. You wanna hit that follow button. Yes, so I asked a question on Instagram about what are some things that millennials really just don't know enough information about, but we really need to know and understand. And bankruptcy came up very, very, very often. Obviously, because we are dealing with a lot of debt in our millennial lifetime, people want to know what their options are. Now, what this video is going to cover are the two types of bankruptcy that affect your lifestyle. We are also going to talk about how to file for bankruptcy, and we're going to go into a little bit further detail what each pro and con category of these different types of bankruptcy could be. So let's jump right into it. So when you are filing for bankruptcy, it is really, really, really your last option. You have tried everything else and you really just have no other choice. And the reason that you want to use it very, very, very end in your debt payoff routine and lifestyle is because bankruptcy is going to wreck your credit score. So you are going to drop 100 to 200 points, and depending on the type of bankruptcy that you file, it is going to stay on your credit report, which is public, public knowledge, for 7 years to 10 years. So let's talk about what is, what's the tea on bankruptcy. So there are two types of bankruptcy that are going to affect your life. There is Chapter 7 and Chapter 13. Now the main difference, and like I said, we're going to dive into the deets a little further into this video. The main difference is how your assets are, treated. So if you are filing for Chapter 7, which is the more difficult bankruptcy to be approved for, your assets are going to be liquidated in order to cover your debts and pay your creditors. If you are filing for Chapter 13, your assets will not be liquidated. In fact, they could be protected depending on where you live, but you are going to have to pay off your debt during a certain type of program or a certain length of time. Now, let's talk about how to file for bankruptcy. The first thing, and it's very, very crucial that you really, really think about this very hard, you want to hire an attorney. Now, I know many people try to do this on their own because they don't want to pay the lawyer fees. I understand. Lawyers are expensive. However, filing for bankruptcy is a federally regulated decision, right? So it's not something that you could do online with a few clicks and then go through. It is going to end up in federal bankruptcy court. So you want to have a second set of eyes, and you want those second set of eyes to be legal eyes that are familiar with all of the ins and outs. What's also really important to understand is that bankruptcy operates differently in different states. There are different exemptions that are going to be happening in New York as opposed to in Mississippi. So you don't want to just go on and Google and say, oh yeah, I can just do this and it's going to work. How do we know that for sure? Right? So please consider hiring a bankruptcy attorney in order to help with filing your bankruptcy. The second thing you need to know when you're talking about how to file, you're going to have to go to a consultation session. That consultation session has to be approved from the U.S. Justice Program, U.S. Justice Trustee Program. This session usually costs $25 to $50. However, if you are facing financial hardship, which obviously if you're filing for bankruptcy, you are facing financial hardship, there are opportunities for it to cost you $0. During that consultation session, what can you expect? First, they're going to talk about what your other options are. Like I mentioned, bankruptcy really is the last final step on your debt repayment journey if you have no other choices and your hands are tied. So they're not just going to go and say, yeah, let's get started. They are going to talk to you about what your other options are to see if you've exhausted those options. Outside of that, they are also going to pretty much tell you what is going to happen. They're going to analyze your credit with you and talk about, the impacts and the cons of what bankruptcy is going to do to your credit score, since it is going to be public knowledge for a length of time. They're then going to go over a budgeting routine or budgeting plan with you, depending on the type of bankruptcy that you are eligible for. So that consultation session is really important. It is required, and it is the first step in making sure that you are ready and understand the circumstances when applying for bankruptcy. Okay, now when we talk about the different types of bankruptcy, like I said, there's Chapter 7 and there's Chapter 13. They are going to take different lengths of time. So people like to ask, well, how long does it take before, I stop paying all my debts or before all these things go into my credit report? That depends. As with everything in life, it depends, doesn't it? If you're filing Chapter 7, it is going to go a lot quicker, and that bankruptcy filing could be done within 90 days. If you are filing Chapter 13, it is very, very, very important for you to understand that that usually will take 3 to 5 years. Chapter 13 is also going to stay on your credit score or your credit report for 7 years, whereas Chapter 7 is going to stay on your credit report for 10 years. And I'm going to talk to you about what. Chapter 7 bankruptcy is going to eliminate all of your unsecured debts except, let's pause a moment, except student loan debt and taxes. So no matter what type of bankruptcy you file, you're going to have to pay Uncle Sam their taxes, and you're going to have to pay Sally Mae and Navient, although Navient's exiting stage left, their money, right? So that's just something you want to keep in mind, that if your only debt are tax debt and student loan debt, bankruptcy is not going to solve your problems. Unsecured debt is any debt that is not connected to an asset that can be, repossessed if you do not pay. So for example, credit card debt, personal loan debt, and health, like medical bills. Those are types of unsecured debt. So if you have tons and tons and tons of credit card debt, or if you have tons of medical bills, that is going to be what your Chapter 7 bankruptcy is going to, handle. Now, when I talked about it early in the beginning of this video, I mentioned that Chapter 7 is going to require you to liquidate your assets. There are tons and tons and tons of things that people try to do to avoid having their assets liquidated. It's illegal. The government's not playing. Like I mentioned, this is a federally regulated process. Don't get yourself or your family members or anyone else into issues or trouble or involved in this bankruptcy thing, right? So don't ever be sneaky. They gonna get you, right? So with Chapter 7, what they do is, let's say you owe $50,000 worth of debt. They are going to try to get to as close to as $50,000 as possible by repossessing your assets and paying off, like selling it and paying off your creditors. Whatever is left off will be canceled because of your bankruptcy, and like I mentioned, it will stay on your credit report for the next 10 years. That doesn't mean your credit score won't be able to go up for 10 years, or that you won't be able to, buy a car or get a house. It is going to affect your interest rates. However, after the first 2 or 3 years, your credit score will increase and you will have access to do things that you would like to do that include borrowing money. Now, Chapter 7 does require you to have a certain median income to be eligible, and if you are above that median income, it doesn't mean you automatically cannot file. This is why you need a lawyer. It doesn't mean you can't automatically file for that particular type of bankruptcy, but they are going to, do a lot more digging. Bankruptcy filing is obviously invasive. You're going to have to list all of your debts. You're going to have to list all your assets. They need to know, that they're going to collect their money in some way, somehow. Now, Chapter 13 bankruptcy does not require you to liquidate your assets. However, you are not going to be really just canceling off your debts. How it's going to work is they're going to create an extended plan of repayment. So this is why it helps a lot to prevent the repossession of your vehicle, or to prevent foreclosure on your home. So they let you catch up on past payments that you've missed, and they also extend, the amount of time that you're given to pay off these debts. Now, what's really important or crucial for you to understand and to remember is that when you have an income increase over those 3 to 5 years, like I mentioned, which Chapter 13 will, keep an eye on your business. If you do have an increase in income, they are going to increase the payments that you are required to pay to your creditors. This is why it's going to be on your credit report for less time than the Chapter 7 bankruptcy. So like I mentioned, Chapter 13, I know it's confusing. Chapter 13 is going to remain on your credit report for 7 years as opposed to 10. They both are going to drop the credit score around 100 to 200 points. And after 2 years, you are still going to be able to, live a pretty interesting life, just going to have some higher interest rates, right? So bankruptcy is not the end of the world. What I do like about bankruptcy is that it gives you a fresh start where you don't have to, try and just keep doing things that were not working for your life. The last thing that I want you to keep in mind when you are filing for bankruptcy is to understand that bankruptcy filing does come with fees and the attorney fees on top of that. So please, please, please keep that in mind. Like I mentioned in the consultation, they are going to walk you through a lot of these steps. So please don't try to do it on your own. I hope this video was helpful for you, and I will catch you in the next one. Peace. Do you like my new look, by the way? No? Bye.